Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda.
And you're listening to Girls Nerd Out.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to us yet again. It is me, Amanda, and we have Andrea here.
Hello.
The Princess of Dragonstone.
Yes.
And we are going to be discussing House of the Dragon Season 2. And you want to say the name of the episode, Andrea?
Well, it's called Regent, which I don't understand why they called it such a boring name. But for this episode, we'll call it better. I promise you.
Yeah, we will name our podcast episode a lot better than the actual episode of House of the Dragon. Again, they seem to have named the episode either right as it aired or right after, because when Andrea clicked on it, it didn't have a name, and that's what happened to me last time.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what's going on with that, but it's Regent. All right, you want to start off?
So the first bit that we see, we don't have to talk too much about it, but it just shows Corlys walking up to his throne at Driftmark. And I mean, I like the shot outside of Driftmark because I think Driftmark is very pretty. And he has like a single tear because it's his reaction to his wife dying. And he's just empty. I mean, even the actor says in the after show that he's just empty. All this wealth around him and his wife is gone.
He is just reliving seeing her in those places over and over again, like seeing her fly in with Meleys or seeing her walk down a hall, like all of that. I mean, they were together a long time.
I also think when we see Bela and Corlys talking, I think that he sees her in her too.
I think he sees Lena and Rhaenys.
Yes, very much. After that, we see Meleys's head being dragged through King's Landing. I'm not a fan of it, and I know Amanda's not a fan of it because it's a dragon, and it's a dragon that we know and we've seen, and we love her, and King's Landing has seen her, and I think it's a mistake to drag the dragon's head through King's Landing, and I like how Cole said, don't they know this is a victory?
Look, first of all, his name is Slaw.
Yes.
Okay, so they think it's a bad omen.
Yeah.
So that's a mistake. Then Ryan Condal himself, which I'm not beefing with him on this one, he specifically said Meleys was a beloved dragon of the small folk. Meleys is bright red. Meleys was known as the Red Queen because her horns were in the shape of a crown. Beautiful dragon. And I told Andrea, I was like, you got to think about it. If you're small folk and, you know, you just kind of live this little basic life, when the giant red, beautiful dragon flies overhead, you know, all the kids ran out and like, look, it's the Red Queen. It's the Red Queen, you know? And like Slaw didn't think of any of that. So you just proved that dragons can be killed. You just showed everybody what they say is a bad omen. And then he has this look on his face like, don't they know that we won? I did see a meme, and it was the Iron Throne, and there was a piece of bacon sitting on it, and it was supposed to be Aegon. I may cut that out. I don't know.
We didn't mention before, but they were carrying a casket. Yes.
But I think they were trying to fool people that hadn't read the book, that thought he was dead. But still, though, Andrea... Okay, like he's badly, horribly burned, right? Like he looks like Freddy Krueger. So, like, why would you put him in a wooden box and bring him back like that? So his armor is still on him. The armor that Aegon the Conqueror got in Valyria, that's still on him. I'm sorry. I will never let that go. So the armor is actually like stuck to him, and they pull some of the armor off and like some black goo comes out. Yeah, it was like black goo. It looked like oil. Okay, here's my thing real quick. They would have had medical people, maesters, even though I don't really like maesters, they would have had them there I would assume somebody would have tried to treat him.
They had Maester Orwell. I'm assuming he knew how to do it.
I don't understand why they left the armor on him all that way. But I guess it was probably for dramatic effect. But let's just say he doesn't look good.
No.
He does not look good. But there's a rumor that he's going to wear Viserys's half mask. I don't think that's going to happen.
I hope not.
But if it does, I'll lose it.
I will die.
I will laugh so hard if they put him in that.
So after that, we see like a brief little scene between Alicent and Aemon, which we don't have to go too far into because Aemon is obviously wearing the dagger and that's the famous dagger is on Aemon, and Alicent notices that. So I think that's her trying to think, okay, I think Aemon had something to do with Aegon.
100%. So this dagger, it's the same dagger Arya used to kill the Night King. It is the most famous dagger that's ever existed. We see Aemon going over to finish off Aegon, and then Cole, and then Slaw is like, hey, and so he doesn't. Aemon reaches down, picks up the cat's paw dagger. That's what it used to be called. Alicent knows that Aegon had that dagger. So she's side-eyeing now and thinking, wait a minute. And then she starts putting it together, and she's already suspecting that Aemon did it on purpose. So, great mom, raised her kids right. Way to go.
Oh, 100%. So, after that, we see Rhaenyra's council. There is a line that really pisses me off that they say. The gentler sex is not privy to the strategies of battles. And then Rhaenyra says something. She sticks up for herself this time, which I was very proud of her. She says, you've seen no more battles than I have.
Like she said last episode, she inherited 80 years of peace, which means that man had not seen any battles either.
We see Daemon talking to the Brackens, which they didn't really give us too much of that, but you could kind of see that the way that Willem is talking to the Brackens, because Willem really hates the Brackens because he's a Blackwood. They're trying to get the Brackens and the rest of the Riverlands on their side. They're all talking and they're all yelling at each other, and Daemon's just like, bend the knee to me or your house burns. And they're like, we're just going to take the burning. And so whoever the leader of the Brackens is, because Daemon is on Caraxes, which, hello, that is a dragon. That is a beautiful red dragon. His rider doesn't have to say anything. They just have that perfect bond, like you have said, Amanda. So the Bracken, whoever the leader of that little skirmish is, he starts walking really slow, and you see Caraxes just bend down, like he just bends down his neck, and you see that little like curve of a smile. I swear to God, that is a curve of a smile, and you know he's about to burn the shit out of them. And I wish we could have seen that. I'm sorry, I really wish we could have.
I already said that. Okay. So really cool thing about Daemon doesn't have to say anything to Caraxes. They talk silently. They can hear each other's thoughts. They have a tremendous bond. So you don't have to hear Daemon say Dracarys. Caraxes is like, no, I got this. And what me and Andrea thought we were going to see was something close to the Tarleys refusing to bend the knee to Daenerys, and then we get some good Drogon scream, or kind of like, although I did not like Varys' end, that scene when Daenerys is standing there and you have no idea Drogon's behind her until he moves forward. We were hoping to see Caraxes' version of that, and I think we got robbed, but Caraxes did look really cool.
Daemon's like, my dragon is hungry. Yep, your dragon is something. He's unruly because you've been stuck at Harrenhal this whole time.
Yeah, he's bored. He's like, well, and see, me and Andrea kind of have this joke because they have such an incredible bond. Damon's been tripping out on werewood paste. And so what we've been wondering is either one, Caraxes is feeling the effects of the werewood paste and he's woozy and going, man, I don't like this. Or if not, Caraxes is maybe seeing some of these visions or at least feeling the feelings. And he's very confused. And I think Caraxes wants to leave Harrenhal.
I just wanted to briefly say Damon's armor looks really good. They got 2 dragons on his armor. And I like his line where he says, I came to raise swords, not corpses. I like that.
I liked it too. It's very, I didn't come here to be the queen of the ashes.
What did you think about the look of the veil? Because I was underwhelmed a little bit.
You know what's funny about that? I actually saw a post on Reddit that compared the veil in Game of Thrones in season 1, Game of Thrones season 4, and then House of the Dragon season 2. And oddly enough, it looks best in season 4 of Game of Thrones. It really does. The
descriptions in the book is different, so it just felt different, but I really like Jane Eyre. I think she looks beautiful. I liked how she held herself, because Rhaenyra really did pull a fast one on her by saying, you know, you're gonna get dragons, but it's gonna be little dragons, and you're also gonna get kids. As a mom, I would do whatever the heck I would want to do for my children, and Rhaenyra, in my opinion, did the best she could. At the same time, Rhaena telling her, you didn't specify the size of the dragon, so that's on you. And I agree. It is. Yeah.
I feel like Rhaena saying, oh, that's not good enough for you? Because Rhaena knows how quick they grow, too. That felt like a little fire and blood pride. Like a little bit of like, wait a minute now. This is my family, my heritage now. Don't talk about my tiny dragons, okay?
So after that, we see Jace wants to go to the twins to get the twins on his side. The twins is owned by the Freys, if anybody doesn't know that. The fact that he makes that decision on his own, he should have talked to his mom, but I liked that he took the initiative of it and that he talked to his queen, his future queen, about it. And I really liked that. And I thought that was a very sweet scene between them. It may not have been very important to the story, but for those that really like love, like me, I really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, Andrea loves love very much.
I do.
And it was a very sweet scene.
Right after that, Rhaenyra has a little scene with Bela and says, I want you, to basically give this pin. I mean, it's a box. And I'm curious where she got that, because is that the same pin that she took out of?
Well, I mean, the only thing I can tell you is this. On the show, when Daenerys thinks that Tyrion is something different, and she names him Hand of the Queen, she says, I don't know if it's quite right. And then she pins it. She says she had it made for him. I would assume they have a jewelry maker or somebody that is some sort of craftsman, probably. So I would think it would be new. I feel like a hand wouldn't want somebody else's pin, probably.
After that, we see a certain scene that is very much talked about all over the place right now. And as a Daemon Targaryen fan, I'm just going to stick up for him in this scene. So we see him with a silver-haired, blonde-looking woman, right? Mm-hmm. We see them touching. We see them kissing. We see him do a certain part of it that is very exciting to women. But yeah, anyway, so
Daemon's not afraid to do what Daemon needs to do to make sure everybody has a good time.
This is what you want to see. So anyway, what I want to focus on is what this person is saying. So she's saying Daemon is a strong one. He is the finest swordsman. He is the fearless dragon rider, which he is. But then she says Viserys has a great love in his heart, but he does not have constitution. You were made to wear the crown. That is what she says to Daemon. And then she says, if only you were born first, my favorite son. When she said favorite son, I was like, Alyssa? This is Alyssa Targaryen, which is Daemon and Viserys' mother, which is, yes, it is a shock, but it makes a lot of sense. She is saying all this stuff, like she's talking about Viserys, she's also talking about him. It's a second son syndrome. Like, you are my favorite son, but you're the second son. If only you were born first. It's all about his insecurity of being the second son. Yes, it's messed up that he's sleeping with his mom, but he's not. He's not actually physically sleeping with his mom. It's a vision.
He doesn't know it's his mom until she says, my favorite son, and then he looks appalled. This is my take on it. He doesn't remember her face. He doesn't remember what she looks like. But this is why I think it got brought up. A lot of people don't know this, but Daemon and Viserys' mom rode Meleys before Rhaenys. Okay, so Meleys has just died. And I personally think that when Daemon found out that Meleys was dead, he felt like the last little part of his mom was gone. Because I like to think that there's something remaining of every person that bonds with a dragon. I don't think you can have that kind of bond and there not be something left over, like a little echo or something. And I think when Meleys died, I think it brought Daemon's mom's memory to the surface. And I think that's why that happened. It's a combination of Meleys dying, him thinking about his mom, and then he still battles that guilt about Viserys. He misses his brother, and it's very complicated.
Yeah.
Ryan Condal really does like shock value. I get what it's supposed to mean, but again, me and Andrea, we've read the books and we analyze everything. Most people are going to take away from that, ooh, David's weird, he wants to bang his mom. That's not what it is.
Like, it makes sense for him to have mommy issues because, Alice Rivers later says, it's a pity you didn't know what your mom looked like. I liked it, but I didn't like it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a half and a half.
Look, if anybody's too bothered about it, this is a show where we're talking about the conquest, and that was Aegon marrying his two sisters, man. Yeah, don't be a hypocrite, man. It is what it is.
I'm a fan of Daemon or Rhaenyra. That's an uncle and niece, so it's not that big of a deal to me. So there's a scene with Simon Strong. Daemon says, so what do you call a man married to a queen? And Simon's like, a king. And then he's like, okay. And then he's like, a king consort. I really liked that because Daemon Targaryen is the first king consort ever. And that's pretty important, I think. I love how Simon Strong kind of feels like a hand of the kings. When the River Lords come and they're pissed off and they call him a tyrant, like he's like running off like, wait, don't leave. Like,
and again, he didn't poison him with any peas.
After that, we have the Green Council. I think it's very interesting because they're trying to find like a regent. Aegon has a daughter, but his daughter is a toddler, and it would make him look like a hypocrite if they made her regent. So they decided that since Aegon doesn't have any heirs, they picked Aemond. And Alicent's like, well, I've worked with Viserys. How much did you work with Viserys? How much? Besides, like, in your own household. You usurped your best friend, and you're trying to say all this stuff. It doesn't make any sense.
Everybody knows that I really like Alicent Hightower. So personally, I think that Alicent really loves power, obviously, and she's a little afraid of Aemond. She's really like side-eyeing him real bad. And then Andrea had to remind me, from her perception, he murdered a child. And I was like, that's right. We know it was an accident, but she doesn't know that. It's easy to forget. But then that fantastic scene that you were talking about, when the camera slowly gets closer and closer and her breathing starts getting more obvious and then faster, I was like, oh, she's having a panic attack. A bad one. because she's seeing all of the control that she had just melt away. It's gone.
And what's interesting is that she looks to Laris, who has done things for her. And then he looks at Kristen Cole because he knows the situation between him and Alicent. Cole literally just showed her the frickin' door. Like, he's like, you know what? Aemon should be the regent. And I honestly think he's scared of Aemon too. I do. But at the same time, he is snubbing the queen. Sorry, she is not the queen. She is the queen regent. It's just funny how he's snubbing her. And Alicent is like, I've slept with you several times. How could you? She's losing her power.
She thought that she could use her feet and it would work with Laris. That doesn't work anymore. Her body, and maybe because we think she does have feelings for Slaw, she thought that was a two-way street.
And that's over. The way that they talk to each other in front of all those small folk, I was like, I cannot believe this. I can't believe this. And then, I'm sorry, but Laris is probably my favorite person on the green side right now besides Helena.
I mean, I'll say this. He's different. And he is definitely going to tell Slaw about the baby. And we don't even know if that moon tea worked. We don't know.
I don't think so. She still looks like she's kind of showing it. I don't know.
You can't tell if it's the dress or if we're maybe meant to wonder if the baby is still a thing. Look, man, I got to say this like really quick. If Alicent is your fave, I am so sorry that you see her in the same shade of green and you never see anything else. And if you collect Funko Pops, unless it's the Funko Pop where she's crazy with the knife, they all look the same. So I'm tired of that green. I'm just tired of it. I just had to say that.
Well, even Helena is wearing black in this episode, like, because she's mourning her kids still, so she's wearing black. I like that she's still wearing black, but Alicent hasn't worn black once. I mean, I think except for the funeral scene, I'm going to have to rewatch that, but I'm pretty sure.
I think that was dark green, man. That's like
I don't
green.
think that's black. She's worn green this entire season. So after that, we see Hugh Hammer, who we have seen before, and I really like him. I'm very curious what they're going to do with his character. But we see him, we see his wife, and then we see his child. His child is very deathly sick. Like, she looks like she's on her deathbed. I think there was even a comment when the small folk are running to the gates and they close the gates because Aemon said close the gates. There's not enough food. If you pay attention to the small folk in the city, they have bowls of brown. And then some of the food looks run. It's understandable why he thinks the king is going to help them out, but they find out very quickly that the king isn't going to help them out.
I'm very confused as to what's going on in the Reach because that's where Highgarden is, and it's the best, most fertile land there is. And if you watch Game of Thrones, Marjorie talks about how many, what does she say? How many carts of grain are coming from the Reach to feed the people of King's Landing because the Tyrells saved their ass. So that's what I'm kind of curious as to what's going on there. And it makes me wonder, but maybe that's just something that we're not privy to.
Then after that, we see Jace, and I liked seeing the twins again. The whole scene that upset me was between the Freys and Jace. So they're talking about how they're afraid of Vhagar, and I'm sorry, how are you afraid of Vhagar when Vhagar is, Jace says, leagues away? How? How are you afraid? Like, they want dragon protection. Jace promises dragon protection. He also promises Daemon's protection, which I'm like, I know some people say this is treason, which it isn't if Rhaenyra okays it later. But like, you have dragon protection, so technically you're bending the knee. That means you're letting, the whole point of this is to let Cregan Stark's graybeards, or his old men, or whatever you want to call them, cross do the crossing through the twins. And I don't know if anybody watched Game of Thrones, but it's very, it's not just, Robb Stark needed a crossing, right? And then the Freys eventually are like, hey, we want Harrenhal, which is a whole mess because that's not how they get it in the book. So the way that they ask it in the show is very similar to how Walder Frey asks for it in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, this was just another one of the let's take something and make it as close to Game of Thrones as possible because we feel like we need to lean on it, which they don't.
Harrenhal is a big deal. It is a castle, even though it's run down and Daemon needs to fix it like Bob the Builder, but it doesn't make sense for the Freys to want it.
That whole scene was just to remind us of the twins, the Red Wedding, and Walder Frey.
Then we see Daemon and Alice again. They have like this whole conversation, which I wasn't a fan of. He talks about how he is a king, and when he takes the throne, Rhaenyra can gladly come to his side and rule with him. And I know a lot of people are going to take this and say he's trying to usurp the throne. I really don't think that. He's dealing with the fact that his wife wants nothing to do with him. He just saw his mom. He's freaking out. I think he's going mad, honestly.
I just thought that was Daemon. How can I put it? That wasn't so much a statement about Rhaenyra. I feel like that was Daemon talking about how big his dragon is. I just kind of got that. Like, that's just Daemon. He's talking to a chick. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be sitting on the throne. She's going to join me. Come on.
He did try to flex it. I agree.
Yes! People are taking it way too deep. This is Daemon Targaryen. If you don't think he says stuff like that sometimes, he's morally gray. He's gonna say stuff like that. And he probably would have said, hey, do you want to see how big my dragon is? It's just Daemon.
I think Alice Rivers is something else. I don't know if anybody else noticed in these episodes that we've seen Alice Rivers, but she doesn't interact with anyone but Daemon. And that is very interesting to me because we see Simon Strong actually look at her and he doesn't react to her. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't nod at her or anything. So my personal opinion is that Daemon only sees her and sees these visions. I originally didn't think she had anything to do with these visions. I thought that was all the werewolves. I think she is a mirror to him. I think that because he's done bad things, that he's trying to deal with it. And she is a mirror, and she only is like that when people are bad.
I think Andrea is really on to something with this. And very similar to The Sixth Sense, where you watch this movie, and then you get almost to the end, you realize the entire time nobody can see Bruce Willis except for the little boy. Okay. When Andrea told me that, that's exactly what I thought of, and I think it's freaking genius. I'm like, yeah, because nobody else talks to her. If somebody's looking at her, there's always something else they could be looking at. Andrea, I think you're on to something with that. I really do.
I have to talk about this a little bit. We see Baela go to Driftmark and give Corlys the Hand of the Queen pin. And of course, Corlys is upset because he's like, what more does she want from our house? And I get why he's upset, but at the same time, it's like, what has Rhaenyra really done to you? I think it's part of his grieving because his wife is gone.
Yeah,
and I like that Baela is like, Rhaenys is not a thing that was taken from you. She is a Targaryen princess, and she's a dragon rider, and that is what she wanted to do. She has always supported Rhaenyra, and what she wants is Rhaenyra to ascend the throne. And I loved that scene. That was beautiful. Corlys says, I want to make you heir, which I'm sorry. I'm going to be a little blunt here, or a little bit like Team Baela and Jace here. Baela Targaryen is supposed to marry Jace Valerian, and Jace Valerian is the heir to the Iron Throne after Rhaenyra. She is going to be queen. So I am sorry. I wish she had a little attitude, but I really liked this at the same time. I am blood and fire. Driftmark must pass to Salton Sea.
I liked her in that scene because when she says I and Blood and Fire, you could just tell, like, she's just proud.
She's
And
her
she's
dad.
like, no, she's like, yeah, she's her dad in that scene. But you can tell she's like, no, what you've got is great, but I'm Blood and Fire. And it's just like, yeah, yes, that's my girl. That's the kind of line, like, I wish I would say, and I would, like, think of it later. But no, she did that great. She's a great actress.
It reminds me of Daenerys when Daenerys says that I'm going to take what's mine with blood and fire. I will take it. That's what it reminds me of.
Oh, maybe it was supposed to.
I'm not trying to like continuing to match the shows at all, but it just,
that's not the same.
I like the blood of the dragon situation, and Daenerys has the blood of the dragon, and so does Baela, and so does Rhaenyra. So it's it's very fitting.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's something that would be passed down. You know what I mean? That's something that would be in text. Like, I am the blood of the dragon. I am blood and fire. I am the dragon's daughter. It makes sense. Not the stoplight eggs. I'm not getting into that.
We're going to see dragons next episode, so that'll be nice.
Yeah, and you know me. I talk too much about damn dragons. Shocking.
No, I'm excited to see Varmathor and Silverwing. And I want to see an actual dragon bond. Like, that'll be nice.
Yes.
It's been a while since we've seen a dragon bond, so.
A very long time, and God knows I'll probably overanalyze it. It's fine.
And you will, and that's fine. I want to hear your overanalyzing.
And I'm a nerd.
Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda.
And you just listened to
Girls Nerd Out.